Hello everyone and welcome to Azam Sharp School. And this topic is called composition. And this is going to be a really interesting video because composition is one of those essential blocks when you're building SwiftUI application. So let's go ahead and start with an example. Let's say that we want to display customers in a list control. What do we need for that? Well, first of all, we need a list of customers, obviously. So what I'm going to do is I am going to create a customer struct. There we go. Nice. And now we need list of customers, right? Now this is where ChatGPT can really be helpful because it can create list of customers easily. So there we go, list of customers. Okay. And if we want to display these list of customers, well, we can use a list. So let's use a list. Customers. We will get access to the customer object. We can display anything related to the customer. We'll start with the name. So there we go. We got a couple of different names being displayed. And if we want, we can also go ahead and display an image. So we can use async image. Pass in the customer.image URL content. Over here, we can actually resize the image if I want to. Resizable. Probably even put it inside some other things like edge stack. We'll do that. 50 over here. Placeholder, whatever you want to display. If you're loading the image, you can display loading or whatever. That's completely up to you. You can even use like a circular progress bar. And put it in the edge stack. Okay, looks good. So this allows us to display customers. But whenever we're displaying customers, and if we plan to display customers somewhere else, and even if we want to create a dependency that whenever customer changes, a particular view should be re-rendered, what we usually do is we extract this out. We extract out the list into some sort of a view that is for customers. So I can say over here, customer list view. Var body. The body over here would be something similar. So we can actually use all of this. Just cut it from there, paste it over here. And that means you will be passing in the customers. Okay. And over here in the content view, we can simply go ahead and say customer list view, passing in the customers. I mean, the result will exactly be the same as you can see. We can even make this a little bit more better or much better by extracting this out. This is basically our cell, these ones. So we can actually extract it out into a cell view. So I'm just gonna easily extract out that into a customer cell view. And then I can replace all of this with customer cell view. Now, this is already a lot of different ways that you have already seen that we are composing our views, meaning that we are dividing our views in a way that we can reuse them later on. But the problem with this approach, with this particular approach, is that right now we have created this customer cell view, which is dependent on the customer object. We may in the future want to display a list of accounts, list of vegetables, list of whatever, right? List of music or whatever. And those lists may contain the same exact, image or some sort of an image, not same exact image, but some sort of an image with the title. Maybe they can also have a subtitle. Maybe they can have a description. Maybe they can even have some sort of a control over here. So we end up creating a lot of different cell views, each accommodating a particular model. Like over here, when we created the customer cell view, we are accommodating the customer. The only thing you can pass over here is a customer. If I had a list of vegetables, maybe I'm creating a vegetable gardening app, I can't really use the customer cell view to display a list of vegetables, right? And what will happen is that I have to create vegetable cell view, account cell view, customer cell view, which is already there, and so on. And it's okay, but we will end up with a lot of different cell views. So now the question actually comes that, is there a way to make it so that a lot of different models can utilize the same cell? Actually, we have seen this technique used in UIKit. Let me actually show you. Let me import UIKit. Don't worry, we're not going to use anything UIKit, but I just wanted to show you. And I'm going to create a function called foo, although the function name doesn't really matter. All I'm trying to do is to create a cell, UI table view cell. UI table view cell, when you create, you can see that you can pass in the style, and style contains default subtitle value 1, value 2, and so on. So that is going to configure the layout part of it. But if you actually go to the UI table view cell, the implementation, you can see that UI table view cell contains properties like text label, detail text label, image view, background view, selected background view, and many more. Now, over here in UI table view cell, they're not really talking about a particular customer or particular model. They're simply talking about that, well, text label and detailed text label. And you can pass in anything you want over there. I mean, you can pass the text label as the name of the vegetable or the name of the customer. For the detail, you can pass in that, well, the detail of or the address of the customer, but you can also pass some sort of a description for the vegetable if you want to display a vegetable or a flower. So maybe we can use the same approach when we design our own cell view. So let's do that. Let's start with creating our own cell view. And what should we call that? I mean, we can call this anything we want. So I'm just going to make the name a little bit more generic. I'll just call it ListCellView. And it will be a view. It will have a body. And it will have whatever, ListCellView. Now, in the ListCellView, we can't really pass in a customer, right? Like this, customer. Because then it will only be for the customer. And we can't really pass in a vegetable or a flower because we don't really want it to be strongly tied to a particular, particular model that we have. So what should we do over here? Well, we can pass in basic types like string. I can pass in subtitle. Now, subtitle is not really mandatory, so we can actually leave it like this. We can pass in the description if we want to. Again, description is not mandatory, so we can leave it like this. All right. And since we can actually change it later on, we can pass it as a var. Now, inside the cell view, it's completely up to us how we display these things. Okay. So what I'm going to do is mostly the display, if you're displaying in a cell, it's not really vertical, it's horizontal. So that's why I'm just going to use a H stack and I'm just going to display the title for now. And, maybe we can even display the subtitle. So go ahead and type in subtitle. Subtitle, we can also have a font which is a little bit more smaller. Here we go. So subtitle, you can see over here that it is null. So we have to unwrap it. Subtitle. There we go. All right. Now, how do we use this list cell view? So let's go back to the customer list view. Instead of using the customer cell view, we can say list cell view, and we can pass in the title, customer.name. Okay, so we got only the name being displayed. Let's go ahead and pass in subtitle. Now, I don't really know what subtitle will be over here because we don't really have any subtitles, but let's say that subtitle is something like this. I'm just going to add an address, and this is going to be the same for everyone, but You get the idea, right? So we can pass in all of that information. Now, if I want to address this, that it should be aligned in a certain way, then we can do this. There we go. But if you look at the customer cell view, the customer cell view was actually using an async image. And in our code, we're not really using async image. Well, that's not really much of a big deal because we can go ahead and we can actually use it. So let me go ahead and just copy this, paste it over here. It's not going to be customer.image URL. It will just be image URL. So I have to go ahead and create a different property. And again, image URL, it's not really a mandatory field. So we can simply go ahead and create image URL as an optional field. And now I can go over here. I can pass in the image URL, which will be customer.image URL. And there we go. We got our image. So we got all the stuff that we needed. Great. Well, sometimes what happens is that you don't really want the image on the left side. You want the image on the right side. So we want the images to be on the right side, not on the left side. So how can we do that? Well, in those cases, what we'll have to do is we will have to create some sort of a view placement. So I'm going to go over here and say view placement. This can be an enum, which can be placed leading or trailing, but you are free to add top, bottom, whatever you want, but I'm just going to keep it as leading and trailing. And in the ListCellView, again, you can pass in the leading and trailing, but that will be optional. So it will be view placement, and by default, it will be leading, and it will be an optional value. Now, I guess if we don't put an optional value, then it will be leading anyways. That is also fine because we are providing the option. We are providing the initial value of leading, so it doesn't really have to be optional, I guess. We can just keep it like this. So this means that whenever it is leading, it will be on the left side, which it is right now. Whenever it is trailing, then it will be on the right side, which is this one. Also, the construction of the image, maybe we can move it into a different private property just for a little bit more clarity. So I'll just go ahead and say image view, some view, and I can just move all of this stuff, like probably all of this stuff, just extract it, and there we go. Now I can check over here. I can say if the image placement is leading, then go ahead and display the image view. And I can go in my edge stack and I can configure that if the image placement is trailing, then go ahead and display the image view. Right now, by default, it is leading, and we haven't even passed in over here. You can see that we haven't really passed in. So let's say that if I do pass in image placement trailing, and there we go, we got it at the trailing. Now, whenever we display the trailing, we probably want it a little bit more spacing, right? So we can go ahead and add spacer over here. There we go, good. And now I can actually change this to leading also, just to see how that behaves. Leading. Let's go ahead and change it to trailing. Trailing. All right, so it looks like it's working fine. Okay, great. Well, sometimes what happens is, apart from the image and apart from the text and apart from the description and the subtitle, you also need some sort of a custom control. Maybe you have some sort of a progress view or circular progress view that you want to display. Well, first of all, we need the progress view. So let me actually go and get it. Don't worry, you can create your progress view any way you want. You can ask ChatGPT if you want to, or you can construct your own. I'm just going to go ahead and put a progress view kind of like on the top. The code for the progress view is not important. I'll show you how you can display the progress view. But the point is, how do you display a progress view or a ratings view or any kind of a view in your cell view? Because there might be some situations where you want a custom control, the control that you have built to be displayed in the list view, a list cell view. Well, in those cases, what we can do is we can take the power of the view builder. And I can go ahead and say that the ListCellView will have a generic value of leading, which will be a view, because this is how you can actually use the generic with the view. If you try to use a view over here in the property, it's not going to work. So this is the way that we use it. So I'll say view builder, and it will be a leading accessory view. I think I got this name accessory view from the UI table view cell, if I remember correctly. All right. And it is going to return you leading. Leading means on the left side. And right now, it's not even compiling because we still have to implement the initializer. So I'm going to go ahead and implement the initializer. All right. Over here, you can see a lot of problems coming up. Escaping, it's saying view. It shouldn't be a view. It should be leading. I know it's getting a little bit messy. And the default value that if you don't pass in anything, we're just going to display empty view. We're just going to return empty view. Okay. Just like the leading accessory view, how about trailing accessory view? Trailing accessory view, and we will add another one, trailing. Because the leading and trailing, they can have different types. So that's why we are using two different things. And I guess I have to do this again now, the initializer. So let's go ahead and do the initializer again. It's not even coming up. Great. Let's go ahead and do it. There we go. Let's go ahead and change the leading and change the trailing. Leading is going to return you a leading, and trailing is going to return you trailing. We also want to provide some sort of a default, like if you are, if you're not passing anything, what should it be? So the default value, if you don't pass anything, because it's not really a mandatory thing. If you don't really want to pass anything, just don't pass it. It's not every single ListCellView is going to be using leading accessory view or trailing accessory view. Okay, this looks good. All right, now we can go and update our ListCellView, the body part of it, so that we can display leading accessory view and trailing accessory view. Leading will be over here, and trailing will be right at the end. Trailing accessory view. Now, if you're using the image view as well as the leading accessory view, that is your issue, all right? I mean, that is something that you're doing and you're responsible for that. Just like in UI table view cell, you can add a lot of different things. And if it looks funny, then it's your fault. So you got to be careful with that. You have complete control, right? So now if I go over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the image, because there's no point of passing image if I want to use leading accessory view, right? Leading accessory view. What should we return over here? CircularProgressView, and we're going to pass in the value. The value will be something that I will create, which is value CG float, and we can initialize it to be 0.25. And let's see if it displays something. Okay, so leading accessory view, you can see we're getting something over here. Let's go ahead and fix this thing, right? Width, whatever, 50 maybe. Height, this is completely up to you, however you want to style it. Height 50, and so on. All right. Now, one of the things that is interesting over here is that the progress view is still being displayed. So let's comment out, first of all, this customer cell view. That's kind of weird thing that is being displayed over here. All right. Okay. So over here, what it's doing is that it is still probably implementing this because the initial value was leading. Look at that. See that? So if the initial value is actually leading, then it is still rendering something over there. All right. So what we need to do is we need to fix this, or else you will always see the progress view. All right, so I've made a little bit of changes over here. First of all, you can see that in the ListCellView, I am passing the image URL for the customer, and the image placement is trailing. So you can actually see the image being displayed in the trailing format or the layout. But what if we don't pass the image? So if I remove the image, you can see that if we don't pass the image, it is still showing as trailing. But if I do leading, it doesn't show. So what did I make the change? So let's go over here. You can see that I've added a little bit more check over here for the leading, but I don't have the same check for the trailing. So I can actually make sure that we have that check. The check is simply saying that the image URL doesn't have to be nil. It should have a value so that you can display the image view. Because if the image URL is nil, there's no point displaying the image view because it's simply going to display you the progress view, which we saw, right? So there you have it. I mean, you have complete control now. And you can see that how this allows you to create so many different type of cells. I mean, yeah, you can add padding a little bit more over here and over there. You can add description, custom controls. If you even want this part to be controlled, then I would say we create a content view, just like a view builder that we are creating over here for left accessory and trailing accessory. You can create a content view which defines the actual content. I mean, it can be like the whole thing. So it's up to you how you divide it. But this is what is called composition. And you can see that by creating these different view builders and by extracting out different views, we have composed it in a certain way that now you can use ListCellView in many different scenarios, One of the other things, let's see if we have time to do this, but one of the other things that can be really fun is copy this. And what I'll do is I'll see if I can actually open up ChatGPT. Okay, ChatGPT. Use the following in different scenarios and create Xcode previews for them. Sometimes, ChatGPT can generate different previews for these things. So let's see if it's even working or not. Internet is working a little bit weird, but what we're trying to do is we're asking ChatGPT that, hey, can you create Xcode previews for this? Like different ways, like in some of them you pass in the image, in some of them you pass in the leading accessory view and the trailing accessory view, so that we have a collection of kind of like Xcode previews so that we know how it looks like. All right. So here you go. ChatGPT is actually going forward, trying to do something. You can see that it is actually using our ListCellView and it's creating it in a different format or using different layouts. Some of them is just going to be passing in like different image, trailing accessory view, so on. And it's going and it's going and it's going. Let's see if it's actually done. Okay, it's done. Let's copy this. Let's scroll down, probably at the bottom. Sometimes it doesn't work, so I'm hoping that it works, please. Sometimes it just doesn't work. Oh no, it doesn't work. All right, let's see what's going on over here. I'm not sure why it's complaining. ListCellView doesn't conform to view. Okay, let's see if that is the actual problem. Okay, so I just removed that. I mean, I don't know what problem it was having. Sometimes you can display all of them in the scroll view, but right now what it is doing is creating different previews for each one of them, as you can see on the top. So this is, I think, the title only. And the good thing is that it's actually creating these previews with headings, which is nice. Leading avatar. Wow, that's actually pretty good. That because now anyone can just open it up and they can see what's going on. Oh, I hate that feature where you actually swipe and it just goes on. I don't really like that feature at all. Okay. Trailing bill, dark mode. Okay, so you can see kind of like how the list cell view will behave under different conditions. You can even pass it some sort of other views like a progress view and so on if you give it more information. But hopefully this was helpful, and hopefully you are going to try it out to learn more about this, like list cell view. And this is how you can compose your views. And it's just going to give you a lot more flexibility as compared to if you're creating different cell views for every single case, because you may have like 10 different models which require 10 different cell views. So use this approach and see how it works out for you. All right. So once again, thank you so much for watching it, and check out azamsharp.school. Hopefully you'll find a lot of value in Azam Sharp School. There are workshops over there. There are tons and tons of courses over there. Azam Sharp School has to be kind of like your number one source for learning. And all of these individual videos are there in Azam Sharp Pro member only content. My next workshop is actually coming up. If you open up this, next workshop is on October 24th, and it will be on Swift Data. So if you are using Swift Data, if you're stuck with it, like, oh, how do I use MVVM? Well, you shouldn't use MVVM with Swift Data. I'll show you the built-in architecture. So this is available. And if you are already an Azam Sharp Pro member, you get free access to it. So just access your coupons. You'll get the coupon, register to the workshop, and that's it. So that's it. Check out azamsharp.school. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.